So, for the first time in my life, I've got a really nice gaming setup. I've got the PS5 and I've got a really solid computer. That means I'm able to play all the games of the last year, 2022, without any problems whatsoever. I haven't had to suffer low frame rates like back in 2014 when I had to play Alien Isolation and Evil Within on my PS3, which was excruciating at times. I'm able to play every new game that I want on high settings and at a solid frame rate. So I'm very happy to experience that, and I've decided to just share to you guys the games I've played throughout this year and me ranking them from worst to best. My first game would be High on Life. This game was not really my thing whatsoever. I got about 2 hours in, and I remember there's this annoying character that pops up, and he's intentionally annoying, I will give credit to. However, this annoying character who's just babbling about his life and nonsense is as annoying as your sidekick character, which is your gun, who's talking to you through the entirety of the game. And I realized this is a problem. If the intentionally annoying character is just as annoying as a non-intentionally annoying character, then you know something's wrong with your game. Because the characters in this game are all very similar. They would just observe and say simple stuff as if it was a joke. Like they'd walk into a new room and like, "Whoa, you have a really cool couch, you know? It's really red. It looks really comfy." And then that would be the entirety of the joke. It just didn't really have much substance. It doesn't have much variety. If one character had that as what they would say, then I guess I'd be okay. But literally every character in the game just says the same stuff. They're just making those observations and they think they're funny, but it's not. I'm sorry. Moving on though. Let's look at the next game we got on the list. I have the Callisto Protocol. What a fucking nightmare this game was. I was so excited for this game because the main dude who worked on Dead Space, who was really a visionary when he dropped that game, like it was truly the scariest game ever at that time, in my opinion. He decided he's coming out with a new one, and Callisto Protocol, you know, it's a new IP. It looked really reminiscent of Dead Space. It looked essentially like a Dead Space 4. But, you know, even if it was a Dead Space 4, like if it was just like it, I would not be mad because I thought I was going to like this game no matter what, right? This game sucked. And I think the fundamental issue is that it focused so much on melee combat. So you have to get close to enemies. You feel powerful. Like you want to, when you see an enemy, you just want to run at them full speed and take them out as fast as possible. While in all horror games, you're supposed to be staying away from enemies, either by shooting them from a distance or hiding from them or running from them, right? So it was very flawed from the start. Besides that, there's just no originality here. Like I remember one of the coolest things from Dead Space 1 was that the game never shifted perspective from the camera behind Isaac, right? So it was a truly immersive experience. You're always hanging with Isaac. You're always Isaac. And this one, it just doesn't have that. And I'm not saying it has to have that. My point merely is that Dead Space had so many ideas going for it that put it as an original horror title that was truly elevated from all other competitors. And granted, it didn't have many competitors, and Callisto Protocol definitely does have a few. But Callisto Protocol just has not original bone in its body. It's truly insufferable. I mean, even the good stuff, like I'd say the voice acting is very good in this game, but the writing is just subpar. So you just don't even really credit that. I can barely credit that in this little review of mine. Other good stuff, the graphics, right? Graphics are so amazing, but they're just overly flashy in it. I don't know, it feels like a tech demo almost, this game. It doesn't feel like, it feels a bit rushed. It feels unpolished. And who knows? I played this game right when it came out. Maybe they've cleaned stuff up. Maybe it's more polished, you know. But I'm just judging it off of when I played it initially. And I got this on the computer too, and it was a broken mess. And I've heard they've definitely fixed that. So I could have probably played it on the computer if I waited a week. But I just want to play it right off the bat, so I went and got it at GameStop for the PS5, and even on there, the performance was pretty bad. It was shooting for that 60 FPS, but many times it would drop to like the 40s whenever a new enemy or a new environment would come into play. Just not a good game whatsoever. I remember I got to the end, and just there's an absurdly generic boss that comes down. Just like the military dude is like, I'm gonna fuck you up. And I was like, God damn, man, I can't finish this. And I just stopped. I just looked up the end, and it was an abysmal ending to an abysmal game, you know. I'm done with that game. I'm not returning to it. Moving on. We have, next is Devil in Me. This game was not offensively bad as Callisto Protocol in my opinion, but it was just incredibly underwhelming. It's just another super massive horror story game, and I'm really fucking sick of them, to be honest. The only good one was Until Dawn. That was the first one. You could tell they had a lot of creative ideas and vision for that one, and now they're just simply copying and pasting that formula with very little differentiating these sequels from that original title. These are like spiritual successors that do nothing to elevate themselves from that original formula, and it's really annoying. So Devil in Me is probably, I wouldn't say it's the worst one, but it's not a good one, you know. It's just you're running through hallways avoiding this killer. I think there's a few instances where you can check the environment and you see, okay, I can't open up this door, right? It's locked already. And then something would happen in that room, like it bursts in flames and you have to escape. You have an option between that door you just tried, which is locked, or another door that you haven't tried. Now, if you check that door, you'd realize it was locked, and you know to check the other one. Go straight to that. Don't waste time trying to open that door that's already locked. That's a perfect example of how these should be done, where you are able to successfully win these quick time events or get out of situations and survive. But a lot of times you'll just enter a new environment, like in this one you enter a barn, and you can either go upstairs or go straight to the back door. You've never been in this barn before. You literally have no idea what's upstairs. You have no idea what's behind that back door. It is literally a luck of the draw. You're just guessing. And that is the most infuriating thing in these games. At least Until Dawn felt smarter, and the decisions that you made, like it felt like the example I gave prior, where you have an educated you can make an educated decision to save your character rather than just simply guessing. That was one thing that really annoyed me about this game. It was just the writing is not that good. It's just not that entertaining, not that surprising. There's no plot twist. That was another thing. Until Dawn had a remarkable plot twist that really turned heads, and I'll always remember that. This game had no twist. I mean, I guess I kind of had a twist halfway through, but you're like piecing it together, and it's like, oh, cool. But it doesn't affect anything. Like, there's still someone trying to kill you, and you're trying to get off the island. Simple as that, you know. Just not a game that I'd want to spend time playing again in my life. Hey, again, it's not the worst game ever. If you've never played any of the Dark Pictures or Supermassive titles, it's kind of cool, but if you played other ones, you're like, I've seen this shit before. Alright, next up on my list, we have Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Now, I was really excited for this because I saw a lot of good things about the campaign, and that's what I'm going to be reviewing, or that's how it unfolds on my list. I just played the campaign. I didn't delve into any other areas of the game, like the co-op or zombies. I don't think they have zombies, but multiplayer, all that other Call of Duty stuff, right? Just did the campaign. It was largely unimpressive. I remember the graphics, the lighting is better, but the detail really has not improved. I remember I pulled up some examples from Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 from 2009 versus this new 2022 Modern Warfare 2 remake or whatever the fuck it is. It was not that much better, the graphics. Like, if you're blinking and you're looking at it for a couple seconds, you probably wouldn't notice a difference. Granted, if you're actually watching it, you can tell the newer one looks better, but that's just due to overall lighting and being better and the resolution being better because it's on a PS5 versus a PS3. The story, I will say the characters had realistic dialogue, realistic voice acting, but the story wasn't really going anywhere that interesting to me. It was there's a terrorist and trying to figure out what to do with him. You catch him and then you can't kill him and then you let him go and then he kidnaps someone and I don't know. I feel the Black Ops campaigns, Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2 reign superior in the Call of Duty franchise for the best campaigns where they actually add a lot of dynamic elements, a lot of interesting gameplay, and it's a really compelling experience, and that really lacked here for me. I got halfway through, like I said, and I just couldn't play anymore. I was not interested or invested, and I was annoyed that I spent $60 on this game. Moving on, we have the Entropy Center. Now, this game was pretty cool for the most part. However, it was very overlong. I'm talking, this game is about 15 hours. In comparison, Portal 2, which is the true inspiration for this title, it's written all over its sleeve. You can tell that like night or day. Portal 2 is about 6 hours long. And some may see that as short, but for a game that is merely just puzzles for 90% of it, I think that's an adequate length where it presents itself and many puzzles, showing what the different gameplay mechanics can do without overstaying its welcome. Entropy Center just has puzzle after puzzle and it dumbs down the mechanics in the beginning greatly to where it's far too easy, and then they have very challenging puzzles halfway through that just had me stuck and had me frustrated at all the different elements in the room. That's really how they made things more complex. They just added tons of different interactive mechanics, and it just was very overwhelming, at least to me. The dialogue was kind of cool. They had some that little witty character. You can see the little happy smiley computer. That's their talking gun. He's pretty cool, but it's nothing compared to Wheatley in Portal 2. That's my biggest complaint, and why I don't have this game higher up on the list is merely just because Portal 2 is so much better. It's inevitable to compare the two, and this is like the knockoff, cheap version of Portal 2. So I know I'm going to be replaying Portal 2 multiple times in the future. I love that game, but this one I don't think I'm going to bother coming back to. Next up, we have The Quarry. Now, this is another super massive title. This is one of their main ones. It's not one of the Dark Pictures series small side titles that was The Devil in Me and a couple other ones from previous years. This one is a full-fledged essentially sequel to Until Dawn. It's the same concept. You got teenagers that are in peril and they're fighting for their lives, and then there's some unknown evil forces working in the background against them, right? Same shit. It's executed for the most part on the same level of Until Dawn. However, this one you can die very easily. It feels much easier than Until Dawn, at least for me. And once you die, you lose a good portion of that game. Now, granted, apparently there's some DLC patch or whatever where you can retry, but when I died, I was done. So I ended up with like 3 characters surviving, and I lost about 2 to 3 hours of content when I compared my gameplay footage to YouTube's, which was really surprising. I don't think a bad player, especially when a lot of decisions, like I said prior, for Devil and me, it's luck of the draw. I don't think gamers should be that punished by losing so much of the game, especially when it's a $60 title. I mean, I know they encourage a second, third playthrough, but a lot of us don't have time for that. We just want to play one round and do the best we can and get the best experience possible. And I mean, on one hand, I'm glad they didn't pull punches, but on the other hand, they did too much to where you can lose so much, and it's kind of sad to see. Alright, next up we have A Plague Tale Requiem. I am very conflicted on if I would consider this a good game. It's definitely not a bad game, but it doesn't do enough to be considered a game that I would want to come back to and replay. It just really thrives in the shadow of A Plague Tale, whatever the first one was called, just A Plague Tale. It just does everything that that game does. It polishes some of it, improves on and tweaks some stuff, but it doesn't introduce enough new. And the story's far too long. The plot just completely continues to repeat itself throughout its entirety. You go to a new location. Lucas, or I forget the character, but the younger brother who has these powers keeps unleashing these rats and kills everyone accidentally, and they keep moving on to new spots, and it just happens. There's just nothing really pivotal in the story. I remember in the first game, you figure out that that child has these powers, and by the end, you have these tornadoes of rats that you're throwing at the final boss. And it was just such a cool evolution of the powers of that kid Lucas, whatever his name is. No, Hugo, that's his name, right? So the evolution is so cool. The setting, the characters are all new and fresh in that first game, but here it's just more of the same, and it's far too long. It just doesn't stand out as much as the first one did. As picky as I am, I don't think I'm going to be coming back to this game. It's not a bad game. It's a decent game. If you like story-driven games, like I think the voice acting was stellar. The writing was decent. The pacing was solid as well. It just wasn't original or creative enough to really capture my attention. Alright, moving on. And we're at the first game that I decided to save. We have Stray. I'll start with the pros. You play as the cutest cat I've ever seen in a video game. It's a truly different experience than what I'm used to. You play as that lovable, cute cat. Really cool. You play through a lot of charming environments, and you're discovering things. The gameplay is kind of cool, and it's a good length. The negatives is that it just really lacks substance. There's just not much going on behind what they show you. The lore is not that deep. The gameplay is not that deep. It's kind of a surface level game for casuals. But if you don't mind those types of games like myself, then it is a cool experience. And I've never played a game where you play as a cat like this, so it is a save for me. It is my 7th favorite game of the year. Next, we have Somerville. Now, this game is very similar to Insider Little Nightmares in terms of the 2D, 2.5D platformer, essentially. You're going left and right primarily, but you can go forwards and backwards, and kind of like Little Big Planet as well. It's a very environmental focus. There's no dialogue throughout the course of its game. You're figuring things out on your own. No one gives you hints. No one gives you directions. It's a very cinematic experience. It's very interesting. It's a very short game. This game is about 3 hours long. That was it. I was really surprised by how short it was. But granted, Inside and Little Nightmares are around 4 hours long as well. So this genre tends to have short length of games. It's a really cool game though. I don't think it reaches the highs of Inside or Little Nightmares in terms of artistic spectacle, or in terms of story depth, or even in terms of originality. It is inferior to those, but it does do enough to stand out, and it does do enough to make me want to come back and replay this game. So Somerville, you have earned my 6th spot for favorite games of the year. Alright, coming in at number 5 is a DLC. Should it be considered its own game? No. Should it be considered on the list? I say yes, because it is still about a 4-hour experience, which is the length of that previously mentioned game, Somerville. So, why the hell not would I include it? Just because it's a DLC, it's got that same length, and it feels like its own game. It's a really cool experience. You go through different environments, solving puzzles. It's like a mix between that new Resident Evil cinematic mixed with the old school Resident Evil. You're unlocking doors, you're collecting inventory items, you're discovering new areas. It's a mix of both of those worlds, and it comes together beautifully in this DLC. The story's strong, the gameplay's strong. You go to a lot of different environments. I really don't have much complaints here. It didn't blow me away as much as other games on this list that's higher up. That's why it's not higher, but it is something I'm definitely coming back to. It is my 5th favorite game of the year. Number 4, we have Poppy Playtime Chapter 2. This game, I remember when I played the first one, I didn't know anything about it. It looked really fucking dumb, but it really surprised me, and so I was very excited for Chapter 2. It is a friend fucking occasion. They come together with some friends and we play Chapter 1, and we came back together to play Chapter 2, and when Chapter 3 drops, we will be doing a gameplay video on that as well. It is an exceptional game. Speaking on Chapter 2, it was fantastic as well. It had a lot more depth than Chapter 1. There's a lot more puzzles. It's a lot longer. The first one was about an hour and a half long. This one is about 3 to 4 hours long. So it's definitely got the content. It's definitely got the ideas, the creativity. There is so much tension here. There's a lot of times where nothing will happen, and it just builds it up, making you think like something's gonna happen. Nothing does. So when something does happen, it really catches you off guard and surprises you. I don't think it's quite as scary as the first episode, but it is just as entertaining, and it earns its spot at number 4 on my list. Number 3, we have Madison. Now, this is easily the scariest game I've played in a long time. I think maybe since Alien Isolation or the first Outlast. It's been a long time since I played a game and been so scared. This game had me lowering the volume multiple times. I think it is the best psychological horror type game. I played other ones like Observer and Layers of Fear, and I wasn't a fan of them because they're simply walking simulators, and the game just keeps distorting the world to where you don't know what's real and what's not throughout the whole game, and it just gets old quick. Here they do that to some extent, but they also have you grounded in the reality that is the home that you play in. So it feels interesting when you're actually going to these different dimensions, or you're having these dream sequences or hallucinations, while in the other games it just got old. Here it actually feels interesting and feels different. I would highly recommend this game. It is not the most original title. You got the typical monsters, you got the typical jump scares, but it really does everything it does superbly well, and it crafts a horrifying 5-hour experience that you will not be forgetting. I think one other thing I really liked was it kind of has an inventory system similar to Resident Evil, so you're going around collecting things for puzzles, but it's also combined that very cinematic Layers of Fear, jump scare, and in-your-face cinematics. So it's a really interesting experiment of a combination. It's a great game. Pretty scary. I would recommend. 3rd favorite game of the year. Number 2, we have Scorn. Now, this game's artistic style is unmatched. I've never played a game that is just so passionately fearless artistically. It just goes above and beyond what you think is capable of an environment in a game. It takes you to a whole different universe. It takes you to a world that has nothing that is recognizable, and you see things and you figure out things on your own, and it's just a wonderfully new and original experience that I enjoyed so much. It is a short one, but it is one you will not be forgetting. A lot of people are saying that it's just too bloody and it's just based off of shock value, but in this world, that's how things are run. There's blood and gore are just a common in the world of Scorn. And you don't really become desensitized to it. It keeps things interesting throughout, but it never comes off as if it's just trying to shock you or scare you. It really feels like a genuine interaction. It feels like truly organic interactions that you have that will shock and surprise you. They don't feel forced by any means. The puzzles, the enemies, the combat's really weak, but hey, that's the gun you have in this world. It's not a fucking shooter. A lot of people also complained about the combat. That's one thing I was really surprised by. This game had horrible scores. Compared to the other games that are in the top on this list, they got good reviews for the most part. This game has like a 70 on Metacritic, which is painfully low. And it's a very unorthodox game. It's not a game for the mainstream by any means. It is a game for a gamer. It's a game for someone who wants a new experience. It's so passionately different that I just absolutely loved it. Like, not everything made sense. It's just so different, man. It's something that I really enjoyed. Alright, number 1, God of War Ragnarok. You only have these types of games every couple years or so. You got Last of Us Chapter 2. You had Red Dead Redemption 2. You had the first God of War. Those are the only games in the past 4 or 5 years that are on this game's level and scope and scale. This game is massive. This game has this quality S-tier writing and story pacing, just direction, combat, everything is perfected. It is a big blockbuster experience that you will not be forgetting, with amazing characters. I think the best thing is the writing. Just the dialogue is so good. It's so prevalent in the game too. They're just throughout the entirety, you hear characters talking, but it's always interesting and captivating, and it's just shocking for that amount of dialogue on a 20-hour game. This game had so many hours put into it. It's just incredible. Truly is. Just nothing I played this year has matched this. Like with Odin was such a good villain. You had Thor, such a great character. You had Atreus and Kratos' relationship is so dynamic and ever evolving in this game. It's such an amazing experience, and it is easily my game of the year for 2022. I hope you guys enjoyed my list. Let me know in the comments if you agreed or disagreed with all of the stuff that I said. I'll be back in a year for 2023 games. I might have less games, I might have more games, unsure. But thank you guys for checking this out. Peace out.